I'll be speaking to Nidal Bitari, who's a Syrian-Palestinian journalist, and we're going to be talking about the situation in Yarmouk camp in Damascus, Syria. You may remember that we did a video interview with him in September, and now it is here several months later. He's presently in Albany, New York. Good evening.
Good evening, Stanley, and thank you.
Let me ask you, today there seemed to be some good news. The French press agency reported that some food had got into the camp. From what you know, is that correct?
Yeah, actually it's correct, but it's not completely right that not the people or persons who entered the camp. Who entered the camp was UNRWA and some Syrian-Palestinian civil society organizations. They have been pressing and doing some pressure upon the Syrian regime and some Palestinian factions blockading the camp to allow them to enter the food to the camp, because the camp is sieged since now like 180 days and completely sieged, and during this period nothing had been allowed to enter the camp, nothing at all, food or relief or medical assistance. So and actually after 4 missions have been sent by President Mahmoud Abbas, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, to Damascus to negotiate with the Syrian regime and the Free Syrian Army inside the camp to find a way to solve this crisis in Yarmouk camp. So finally today, about 200 boxes of food have been entered to the camp by UNRWA and Syrian-Palestinian civil society organizations. And actually this amount is not enough at all, because the population now inside the camp is about 50,000. So you are talking about like at least about 5,000 families. So sending 2 boxes of relief of food
200 boxes.
Yeah. So it's nothing actually, and especially now, because people are starving to death inside the camp.
We had seen a report in the Washington Post that 50 people had starved to death.
Yes, exactly. 50 people have been starved to death. Almost all of them are old men and women or children, and actually some of them have been were born in Palestine, 1948, before 1948, and died of hunger in their camps in Syria.
Now the 200 boxes got in. Is that going to continue, or was that just it? Is that a one-time thing?
Actually, nothing is clear at all. But there are no news at all if they will continue or stop. But we hope that they continue sending this relief to the camps, because it's really a very miserable situation. As I told you, Stanley, that it took like 5 missions to come from Ramallah to Damascus to negotiate with the regime, and finally the regime accepted to enter this small little amount to the camp. And let me tell you something. While the mission was in Syria, and maybe 2 or 3 days ago, and after negotiations with the regime and the Palestinian factions, actually they agreed to enter this amount, but like yesterday or 2 days ago, while the mission was still in Damascus, the regime dropped bombed bottles on the camp. So, you know that the pound bottles,
Yeah, I think.
they dropped a pound bottle on the camp, and about 9 persons have been killed by this bottle. So,
Barrel bombs, I think they call them. Barrel.
bottle bombs, yeah, exactly. So,
Now, I thought I heard you say that there were some Palestinians on the outside of the camp enforcing the siege. Is that true?
yes, actually, as you know, that Palestinians are divided toward the Syrian crisis. So some Palestinian factions are pro-regime and fighting with the regime, like especially the Popular Front General Command, which is led by Ahmed Jibril, and they are sieging the camp and blockading it, and actually sometimes sniping people inside the camp, and actually they are the major factor which is not allowing or preventing the relief to enter the camp.
And who was the fighters on the inside? Is it Palestinians? Is it Free Syrian Army? Is it a mixture?
Actually, there are Syrian battalions inside the camp. Some of them are related to the Free Syrian Army, and some of them are not. And there are some Palestinian battalions have been established after invading the camp by the Free Syrian Army, and after attacking the camp by the Syrian regime and the Popular Front General Command. So people inside the camp found themselves are obliged to defend themselves. So they established some Palestinian battalions, but actually maybe since like 2 or 3 months, I think the fire exchange between the inside and outside the camp, between the Syrian regime and the people inside the camp, have been stopped, but the siege have been continued.
So Skype is dropping us, so we're hoping to stitch this together. But you were saying that the fighting has mostly stopped, but the siege continues.
Yeah, the siege continues, and blockading the camp and preventing people to enter or go out of the camp. And actually, there are a lot of persons who are really in need to go out of the camp to get Medicaid, and because inside the camp the hospitals are really poor of equipment and no medicine at all for a lot of diseases. So there was like an agreement between the mission, the Palestinian mission, and the Syrian regime to allow this sick people to go out of the camp and to get the health care and to enter some relief to the camp. And this is it until now. And actually, we don't know at all if this relief will continue.
So let me stop you.
Yeah.
So some sick people were allowed to leave the camp?
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Now, there was a report, I think from the Palestinian Authority, that some people were trying to bring food to Yarmouk and they were fired upon just a couple of days ago. Do you know anything about that?
Yes, it happened 3 times, actually, not one. Like 3 or 4 days ago, there was a trial from people, some relief organized Palestinian relief organizations, agreed with the regime and according to, in addition to the Palestinian mission, they all agreed to enter relief to the camp, but not from or not by the essential gate of the camp, from the gate which is in the south of the camp. So this these people tried, and people have been really fired. Some information said that who fired them was the regime forces, but the regime said no, people inside the camp fired this convoy. So, but I had people inside the camp assured that the fire came from the regime side.
Now, could you tell me a bit about yourself? Where were you born, and how did you get into journalism?
Well, I was born in Damascus in Yarmouk camp, and I studied masters. I hold masters in political sociology, and I worked in journalism while I was in Syria to some local websites, and I wrote actually to some Arab journals like Al Haya and Al Safir and Al Akhbar, and later worked with NPR and continue, and until now and actually I worked during the conflict in covering the Syrian uprising with journalist works with the McClatchy company, and now and actually I work. My main work is with refugees, and my profession is with refugees. But I like to introduce myself as a journalist because I like journalism, and until now I continue reporting on the camp and the violations against civilians inside the camp.
Now, my last question is, if someone wants to help, if they want to do something to get food, medicine into the camp, what can they do?
Actually, now some Palestinian activists in Europe and some Palestinian activists here in United States are planning to or preparing for a global solidarity day with the Syrian-Palestinian refugees. So I think the advocacy and solidarity with them is very important because a lot of calls have been rejected by the regime and the besieged forces. So I think we should do some pressure upon the international community to press on the Syrian regime and to allow the medical and assistance units to enter the camp, and actually to find the real solution for the Syrian-Palestinian refugees. Now that like 500,000 Syrian-Palestinian refugees are in Syria. In Al Yarmouk camp there was before this crisis about 150,000. Now only like 20,000 Syrian Palestinian refugees are inside the camp, and the others are spread on overall Syria or outside Syria in Lebanon. And there was the only place which was allowed to go was Lebanon, which is opened. Lebanon, which is open, its borders with Syria was opened for Palestinians, Syrian Palestinians, but now it's closed. And so we added now Lebanon to the list of countries those are refusing to receive Syrian Palestinian refugees. like Jordan and Egypt and now Lebanon. Uh, so there are two demands now to try to get protection for Syrian-Palestinian refugees, as all refugees in this world. You know that all refugees in this world are under the protection of UNHCR. Only Palestinian refugees have their own agency, UNRWA, which protection is not included in its mission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, well, there's so much to talk about with this, and we'll talk again. I want to thank you for discussing this with us today.
Thank you so much, Stanley, for covering your continuous covering for the Palestinian refugees in Syria.
I've been speaking with Nidal Bitari, and I would like to thank you all for listening. This is Stanley Heller for The Struggle.